Hello again, 112. So it looks like they've already called off Nova, but we're going to keep flying ahead just like we're always going to do. We're actually really going to be doing the exact same thing that we'd be doing in class, which is introduction peer review, and we're also going to be doing some outlining. So the introduction peer reviewing, I'm going to have a deadline for that for Wednesday, and then the outlining, because you will need it for your grade conference, you can have up until the start of class on Monday to do that. So you can really do that at your own pace. So really the only change is we're going to be signing up for grade conferences on Monday as opposed to today. So that'll be a little bit easier for everyone to do it all together. So let's go ahead and look at what we've got to do here. So I've added a couple changes, as you can see, to the Project 2 intro. Now you don't have to print it out. Yay, you get to save some ink. But what you're going to do is as soon as you have posted your introduction, please do that by the normal start of class, 12:30 p.m. on Wednesday. As soon as you post your own intro, you'll be able to see everybody else's work. So you're going to select two other classmates' introductions. You're going to click reply to the introduction and copy those 3 questions from the peer review process below and then respond to them in full. Note there can only be a max of 2 peer reviews per introduction. So if you click on a classmate's introduction and see 2 replies, find another one. That way everybody writes exactly 2 and receives exactly 2. So let's say that I was going to do this. I've already posted my peer review, my introduction, that I'll be able to see other people's. I would copy these questions, and I'm going to go into the discussion forum, and we do see that we've got 2 of them. So let's say I decide I'm going to respond to Emily. I'm going to read hers, although I would ask if everybody could please copy it into the body of the email. That does make the body of the post. It makes it a little bit easier. So I would read this information. Then I would hit a reply, and I would just go ahead and post my information right there. You won't even need to really put your name in there because it's going to save that for her. So I'm not going to actually submit this one because, of course, I'm not your peer, so I want your own peer review, but I would put all of my answers right underneath. So I'm just going to hit cancel on that. So Emily, somebody else, one of your peers can actually give you a review. So I see you've already got 2 people in here. So if you look at the due dates for that, your intro is due at 12:20 p.m. Peer review is done by the end of the day. So you have all day to do it whenever you want as you're enjoying this nice snowy day. Now let's look back at the second part of what we're going to be doing today, which is the outline for Project 2. So if we go down to our outline helper, open that up, it walks us through how we're going to write this paper. It's a much more formal paper, as I've said before. It should be something you might be a little bit more comfortable with because it'll be very similar to the work that you've done in the past. So I'm just going to model this a little bit for you and then show you where you'll be able to submit it. So if you remember, whenever we had our last snow day on the 30th, I gave you guys an example of my own work. So I've got this partial draft where I'm responding to somebody who's complaining about an advertisement, the Gillette advertisement. So I've got my partial draft here in case you want to reread it again. But I'm going to use this to model how I might start writing Project 2's outline. So the first thing that I'm going to have is my introduction right here. So you can literally just copy and paste that. The only thing I want to see is that you've written the thesis out more clearly. Let me just put on track changes so that you can see what I'm doing here a little bit more clearly. So let's say that my thesis statement for this is going to be something like, overall, I feel my argument would be effective for Mr. Starnes and his FoxNews.com readers because I used evidence from conservative sources they trusted, and I also worked to find some areas of compromise by showing them that conservative values can also be the same values of respecting women that are shown by the ad. Furthermore, a very professional and conciliatory tone. Okay? So, I've got my thesis claim right there. I've talked about some of the things that I think I did well in my paper. That I was using evidence from conservative sources they trusted, that I tried to find compromise, and that I was professional and conciliatory, which means that instead of saying you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, I tried to say, well, I'm not necessarily saying you're wrong. Here's some places where we actually might agree, is my tone. So again, you would put your introduction here. Let's see the thesis separate. And then we're going to move on to the body paragraphs right here. Now, a lot of times I find my students struggling the most with topic sentences. So if I look back at my thesis statement, one of the things I talk about is conservative sources they trusted. So that might be potentially one of my body paragraphs. And so if I look at the example that I give right here for how you might start a topic sentence, I could say something like, one choice that is particularly effective for this audience was my choice to use the late former President George H.W. Bush as a key source in my argument. So if you remember from that original version, I showed you that, hey, whenever I wanted to talk about bullying, I decided to use something from George Bush as a piece of evidence. Another thing that I might do in my next topic sentence, I might say, okay, well, one of the other things I did, if you see actually inside of the draft, I talk about the idea that, good men do stand up for their families, that this is something that Starnes argues about being important, family values, and so does the ad. And so I might have my second topic sentence be, in addition, by carefully explaining bit by bit how the family values that Starnes purports to love are in the ad, I also helped reach my audience. So, and I would continue on explaining however many choices I thought I would need. I'm imagining most people are going to need at least 3 paragraphs because there should be at least 3 good choices you can point to. If you can't point to 3 different things you did well in your project 1, it might be a sign that you want to revise your project 1. So, after that, what I'm going to do is explain that choice in detail. And because this is an outline, this might be where I might just use things like bullet points. So I might just say something like, found a New Yorker article that quoted Bush saying bad things about bullies. Now, this is the important part. This is where you're likely going to need some research. So if your audience is someone of a certain generation or someone of a certain political, original review, or certain life experience, how can you find more information about said group? So what I would need to do right here then is I need some good source that shows Bush is liked by conservatives, especially older conservative white men. And so that's where I'd probably need to go out and do some research. I might need to go back and look at some of his obituaries, see what writers have talked about, because I know I am writing for myself, Professor Russo. I'm going to potentially be looking at, really important newspapers for those sources. I'm going to be looking more at something like the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, instead of just going onto Google or Wikipedia or finding something on Huffington Post. And so you should do the same things. If you tell me that religious people like X, let's see that research somewhere. Okay, so I'm just going to save this one with my name on it. Because that's exactly what I want you to do. Just go ahead and save the document with your name on it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to submit it here by the start of class. So it's 10 points towards in-class writing. This is something you need to do anyway. It does count towards your process grade. And if you do a really good one of these topics in its outlines, because the project is pretty formal and follows in a pretty linear fashion from my thesis, this is why it was effective, to my various topic sentences and pieces of evidence, it should make actually writing the essay draft pretty easy too. You should be able to simply just copy some of that information and change the bullet points into full sentences, add in some transitions, perhaps some more detail. So once you've got that done, you just click here and submit it. So that's about it. You've got to have the introduction printed, and then by the end of the day you're going to do your peer review process, and then you've got until Monday to do the outline. Of course, if you have any questions, by all means reach out. I'll be on email all day. Have a great, safe snow day, guys.